Hey folks, it's Matt once again with about 10 videos to the paid requests this time for DarkMetalSpider. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the giant spider invasion from 1975, which I believe is one of his favorite films. And this is a really bad movie. It's somewhat enjoyable, I will be honest, but on the flip side, if you watch the 3 minute trailer, you kind of get all the highlights of the movie. Because it's a pretty long trailer. It's like 3.5 minutes long. So if you watch that trailer, you don't have to see this movie. But I'm glad I saw it at least once. It was directed by a guy named Bill Rebane. And from what I understand, there's a ton of problems during the making of this film. This is why the movie kind of looks at times unfinished in terms of editing. Like there's some very clunky editing where at times it kind of jumps and very spotty, especially when you get to the third act of the film. And a lot of like weird decisions. This is the movie that pretty much there is a giant spider, but what they did was they took a Volkswagen Beetle car and they put black fur around it to make it look like a spider. And yes, you do have Alan Hale Jr., the skipper from Gilligan's Island. He plays the sheriff in this, which I liked him in it because he was a very jovial, jolly sheriff. I wish he was the lead though. I don't know why they didn't just make him the lead guy. Because the guy they had as the lead was very meh. I'm like, Alan Hale Jr., at least he's very positive, very uplifting, and much more recognizable name, so I mean he's in it a decent amount, but they should have just made him the lead guy. So it starts off with this weird ass space acid music. I never took acid, but if I did, it probably sound like this music. And a comet or a meteor or something is coming to Earth. Meanwhile, we're in, I want to say Wisconsin, and like everybody's horny. Like you have this couple, Dan and Ev, who don't really like each other, and Ev stays at home because she's an alcoholic. Dan goes out to the church, but it's really to get laid. And then Ev wants some alcohol, but she'll give a bit of extra if you come over. So they're both horny, just for other people, not for each other. And then you have Terry, who's like the stepdaughter of this group, going out with this guy named Davey, and they're horny for each other because they get together, go to the junkyard, start necking with each other. And so when that's getting settled, Dan returns to his home, his little trailer, to Ev. The thing lands, and there's this big, crazy light show that happens. Very over the top, very goofy looking light show. I'm like, did nuclear bomb happen? What the fuck's going on? Which also, for some reason, creates this wind that goes far and wide and blowing some people back. And then, almost like out of nowhere, some random guy on a motorcycle. I'm like, who's the guy on the motorcycle? We've never seen him before. He crashes. Then he goes in, and it's so dark you can't tell because a lot of these scenes are shot day for night. Meaning it's the day, so they shoot it, but afterward they work the filter to make it look like night. But you can't see anything, you just hear that he gets killed. I don't know from what. Because the thing has just landed, and there's nothing huge should be at that moment. Because soon after, some people find these little geos, and when they open up, there's a tarantula in them. And this is very low budget, and it's, I don't know, I heard the budget was 300,000. I'm like, really? This was 300,000? I mean, I guess I could say they're ambitious. 'Cause I think like the original Halloween was 300,000, and it didn't try to have some big giant spider wrecking houses and do all this other stuff. So, and the movie does these weird things. I guess just for its low budget, like you could tell they stole shots. Like they stole a shot of a B-52 bomber, and then they had like this cheap set of people trying to talk in. And then I don't know, they like stole footage from people inside a control center. Because then the camera it pans down this control panel, and then it superimposes an explosion on the control panel. I'm like, are we meant to believe the control center blew up? No, I guess somehow the explosion on this panel with buttons and levers, you superimpose an explosion, and I guess that means the P-52 crashed, blew up, whatever. What? How the hell does that work? I don't know. So our lead characters, you have Dr. Vance and this female astrologist, Dr. Lehner. And Dr. Vance has to go to Wisconsin because there's some gamma ray shower, meets up with Dr. Lehner, and they pretty much they give an exposition. And I mean, the acting isn't, is there. I mean, I've seen much worse. It wasn't that they were god awful. It's just that the characters really weren't that interesting. But it's nice that it's older actors. It's not just some uncharismatic teenagers. But it just, they were what they were. And there's some little bit of blood in this movie because like Dan and Ev check in their property after that light show. They find a cow with just his head left. They find another cow that looks like it's been skinned. Which the guy's going to take that cow and sell the meat. And even she goes, well, you don't know what killed it. You don't know what happened. It's not my problem. It'll be their problem. And some of the dialogue is pretty goofy. Like Alan Hill Jr., when they get him as a sheriff, he's being jovial. And he's trying to tell these jokes that I don't know. He means well. His smile and his laughter try to help sell the bad joke. Where he's like, physics? Well, I took physics once, but I realized prunes, they did the job for me. It's like, yeah. Because he's so excited to see a Geiger counter, as if he doesn't know what a Geiger counter is. And then it'll cut to like Dan and Ev at their property, and Dan finds a dead body, which I think was the motorcycle guy, and he buries the body. Why does he bury the body? Because they found these geodes, which they don't know as tarantulas came out of it, but they noticed that it looks like there's diamonds in it. Is that we can't tell cops that there's a dead body here? We need to keep searching for these diamonds. I'm like, you still can. I mean, if they look at a rod, because it looks like a rod, they're not going to think, well, maybe, whatever. Now, there's some. The movie, it's a bad movie, but there is some fun to be had. There's fun to be had in its ambition. A story that just doesn't make a lick of sense. Something about how there's black holes and somehow something got through, and these geos or these spiders, and then something happens, so this one spider becomes a giant spider. It's called the Giant Spider Invasion, but there's only one giant spider. The rest are small. Ellie's trying to crash through the walls at one point. Its laser trying to poke out. At one point, one of the characters enters a barn and she looks up, and there's a creature that looks like a Halloween decoration that it looks like they just pulled on a string to plop on the girl. And she's like, ah. At times it get bloody. Spoiler, Dan goes looking. He's not the nicest guy either, so he gets his comeuppance where the spider comes up and eats him and swallows him, pulls him right into its mouth. That's decently bloody for, PG type of movie. I wish we could have seen a lot more of that. We see that probably one more time because it does it to a cop later on. Kind of wish we saw more of it eating people like that. And maybe this film should have gone more for the R-rated crazy route, like it decapitates a head or cuts an arm off or something. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff that just will make you more possibly laugh. Like there's a guy that he drives through the spider web, and the spider is just kind of dangling there because they don't know how to move it. And so then the guy drives through a gas station. And he's trying to escape, but he can't escape too quick. So he's taken out the window, but he has to be very slow and take out the window. Even though he can clearly crawl out, he's like, I gotta break this little glass too. I gotta break this little glass too. And then I can make it out. And then for the cutaway and the explosion. Or, the day for night sequences, like this one weird goof where Alan Hill Jr., the sheriff, is talking on the phone, but the other side of the line you can't hear, except maybe you can hear like the director saying it, but it's so soft like this, like you can't hear. Like he kind of talking in the background, you can't hear it, and Alan Hill is answering, and then you hear this voice in the background talking. I'm like, was that meant for to be put in post and they forgot? Same with like the finale of the film where someone with some, what the fuck was it called? Where it kills, okay, spoilers, it kills the Ev girl in the barn. It kills Dan, eats him up. The younger girl, Terry, she's in the house. It's breaking through the house. You see a wide shot of this spider that can't do much standing on the house, and then arms trying to get through the walls. It trying to go over the hill, trying to go after our two leads, who, of course, easily outrun it. Then at one point, it's in town, and you have people going up to it trying to fight it, and they just kind of have to fall down because they didn't have the budget to have the spider actually hit them and actually attack them. So you just see aftermath of people on the ground or blood spitting out of their mouth. And Alan Hill Jr. doesn't have much to do, except he says the line, "You ever see Jaws? Well, this thing makes that shark look like a goldfish." So more than likely, you just see why this film got made is because it was going to be, I think it was just going to be regular spiders, and then they're like, well, look how big Jaws, like how the shark is. You have an even bigger threat. So it's a spider, you have a spider bigger than Jaws, bigger than the shark. And this was a hit. It was in the top 50 hits of the year. So it made a lot of money for its low budget, although I don't think the director saw any money for it. And I was talking about the editing, like at the end, like something about a helicopter will have something to blast it to shut off this whole chasm so more doesn't enter. And if we kill the spider, then the others will die off or something like that. So our lead character shoots a flare. So he shoots, and then it cuts away awkwardly to a flare in the sky. Then awkwardly cuts to it hitting the tarantula. But they have like all these awkward cuts because more than likely it didn't work the first time, or it didn't burn this way, or it didn't burn right away. and then the fire goes, and then it stops, and the fire goes backwards. So the fire is overwhelming the big tarantula, but it goes backwards. I'm like, why did that happen? Why did the fire just go? Is that meant to be the weapon of the helicopter firing? Because there's no shots on the helicopter, no shots of a weapon firing, even in a cheap way. And then the thing's melting. It's like all these like awkward shots. Like they didn't have everything. You could tell they didn't have everything. There were a lot of fuck ups during production, and they just had to cut and paste whatever they could to make the scene go and fit. And then I'm like, well, did the helicopter do something? I guess it fired a weapon. And does the terrorist say, yeah, the thing is closed, but we didn't see it closed? We just saw the thing did a fire, but then the fire goes backwards, reverse, I should say, goes in reverse, and then it kind of melts, and a lot of awkward editing. And then you think there'll one day be more? Maybe. And then the movie ends, and it ends on a preacher that we've seen a couple times in the film, taught about Armageddon and stuff. It's one of those movies that at least it was short, and at least it was interesting to see what the hell would happen next. Uh, the giant spider does look ridiculous, but in a kind of a goofy, silly, charming way. There's some creepy moments with the actual spiders going among the property, because I'm not a fan of spiders. They creep the shit out of me. I still think arachnophobia is the best, easily, of the spider genre, but there's some nice itty moments. One scene in particular where a lady, she thinks she's making a Bloody Mary, but she doesn't realize a spider was in there, so when she hits the blender, she drinks it. She doesn't realize she's drinking spider blood. I didn't mind that scene. The goofy technical issues and fuck ups were kind of fun to watch, because they didn't do it on purpose. It was just try to get as much as they could done as possible, and just, we know it's not finished. Here it is, though. I do wish Alan Hale Jr. was just the lead character of the film, because Dr. Vance and Dr. Lehner, they're just not that interesting and not that charismatic. They're not the worst I've seen, but they're there. Obviously, of course, you wish they could do more with the spider with the time and the budget, or if you had professionals, because I don't know, this guy would be considered a professional director. Maybe a guy with a bit more experience. Maybe a bit more where the spider could have eaten a couple more people, or maybe go more for an R rating and bite people's heads off and stuff, and things of that nature. Maybe that could have helped. I don't know why you went for the PG rating. I guess they thought, hey, Jaws is PG. You might as well just gone for broke and go more for an exploitation angle. I think that would have worked out better. Maybe they thought that would weaken its box office. I don't know. Like, Jaws works well for its rating because it's a very well made movie. This one needed a bit more of that exploitation, sleazy, bloody flavor to it. So it's a bad movie. It's a badly made movie, but I had a little bit of fun watching it. I would never watch it again. But if you like bad movies, you want to get a kick out of it, it's worth a watch. It's, I think, for free on YouTube. The poster is cool. Poster is better than the movie. Again, it's called the Giant Spider Invasion, but you only see one giant spider that barely moves. But again, there's some fun, some chuckles to get out of it. And it doesn't... There are moments of slow plotting where, again, it's like the two scientists explaining their exposition, and it's all bullshit. Like, you don't care about any of it. So that might tend to make you hit the fast forward button. Like I said, really, you just watch the 3 minute trailer, you kind of get all the highlights of the movie. Like if you watch the 3.5 minute trailer, you've watched the movie. But it was worth the watch. I'm glad they didn't kill off Alan Hill Jr.'s character. They didn't kill the skipper. I appreciate that. I wish he had more to do. And yeah, with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.